So in this lecture, we'll be talking about positioning, which is a very important topic. So positioning, as the name suggests, is about how we position our elements within our web page. And there are several types of positioning, which I will run through. But before I go into that, I just have to explain what is taking place in this particular web page. So in this particular web page, there exists two containers. One is the container that is outer, which is marked by this black border. And then the inner container is marked by the red border. And then we have these child elements, which are paragraphs, which are within this inner container here. So to demonstrate positioning, I will focus on this child element. So the third child element. So if I just go to child 3, so I'm just going to select it here. I'm just going to go position relative, and then I'm just going to go from the left 5 pixels, and let's just see what happens. So as you can see, it sort of stays in its original position. However, because I have 5 pixels from the left, it will move 5 pixels to the left. So if I had 0 pixels, for instance, 0 pixels, it will simply stay in its original position. And then I could just move it around based on its original position. So from the left, it will move from the left to the right by a specified number of pixels. In this case, it will be 50 pixels. If I go right here, position it to the right. So it will go from the right and it will move it towards the left, 50 pixels. Same way, I can start from the bottom. So this goes from the bottom up by 50 pixels from its original position. Excuse me, save this. And similarly from the top down, I can just move it from where it was originally and just move it down by 50 pixels. Excellent, so that's how that works. And now I'm going to talk about absolute positioning. Now with absolute positioning, cool thing happens here is the child is removed from the flow of the document. So from where it was supposed to be, it moves on to the next non-statically positioned ancestor. So just by default, all elements within HTML tend to be static. If I make the ancestor non-static, so what is the ancestor in this particular case? So the ancestor of the child is this inner div. The next ancestor of the child is this outer div. The next ancestor of the child is the body. So if a non-static ancestor is found, or if a non-static ancestor is not found, it will simply go to the body by default. So let me demonstrate this. So if I go to the inner container and I make the position non-static, so for example, if I make it relative, just as an aside, static is the default value, right? So for the default value, nothing changes. But if I make it now relative, you will notice something. So the child now will go to the next, will be positioned from the top, from the next non-static ancestor. So in this particular case, it will be the inner div. But what if I wanted to make the non-static ancestor the outer div? So I'm just going to copy this, and I'm just going to leave this as static. Now we're just going to move to the next ancestor, which is our container here, and I'm just going to go here. Now it should move towards the next ancestor. So that's how that works. And if our next ancestor here was in fact static, by default, it will then move to the body. So that's how that works. So I'm just going to leave this at static. Then I'm just going to now discuss fixed and sticky position. So just remove this, and I'm just going to leave it at static. Excellent. So now I'm going to talk about fixed position. So what happens if I put fixed here as a value to this property? So if I go fixed, as you can see, the child element was removed from the flow, as you can see. And the cool thing about this is if I scroll, it says fixed in that position. It was supposed to be positioned in the flow. So that's a cool thing. Let's see what happens here. Now, what about sticky positioning? So for sticky positioning, we will notice a very interesting phenomenon that takes place. So I'm just going to say sticky, and I'm going to refresh, and just notice something. So I'm just going to scroll down, and we notice that it stays in in a fixed position after I scroll down. You notice? It stays at the top. So just to make this more clear, I could just say the height of this, let's just say 200 pixels. Okay, now you can't miss it. Okay, so we go like so. See that? So that's how sticky works. So sticky first goes relative, so it stays in its relative position. But as you scroll down, then it becomes fixed. So that's how sticky works. Thank you very much.